So perhaps hunting here and then having this second hunt spot in line to get to that hunt spot would be a little bit smarter. However, we're not going to judge him on what he doesn't do, because obviously he can grab this hunt spot and then move over to here and then move over to here in later stages of the game. Throwing down this temple on 17 supply. We see that 17 supply. He has all of these villages on food, 8 villages on food. You can see that there's going to be 8 there. 3 villages on the wood and 3 villages on the gold. Throwing down this temple. He can afford pickaxe at the moment, but he's not going to buy it simply because he wants to have all of that food income banked up so that he can really do what he needs to do. He wants to get to that classical age and he wants to continue along like that. And with this temple, what he's going to do, he's going to get, I mean, he's probably going to mess it up a little bit because there's a lot going on in this game. However, he's going to leave this villager on the temple and get 2 favors so he can get that Hippolyta out so he can have that extra hero. Now, what we can see now is he is actually sending villagers to wood at this point. There's one reason why he's doing that and one reason alone. It's because he has so much hunt. For example, if he did not have this much hunt and he had to gather from chickens instead of hunt, he wouldn't be sending villagers to wood yet. He'd be still sending villagers onto the food. And then once he click that classical age, he'd be starting to send villagers over onto the wood. However, he is building this Theseus in the early game, and that's something we have to know that to do as well. We build this Theseus before we start advancing in classical age so we can get aggressive with it. And that's an important thing. Especially because there's all these animals that we need to kill off and the priest converting animals. We want to kill him as quickly as possible, which it looks like he's going to be trying to do. Picking off one of them across there. Going through Hermes is the god choice here. Now, note this villager did build a house. He's got 3 houses up. It's going to let him have the supply in order to survive that there. He has 5 villages on wood, 4 villages on gold, and 8 villages on food. And that is the sort of staple template we want when we're doing this style. We want to have that economy distribution so we can do that. We also have to note he is getting hand axe, and I believe also he's already got pickaxe. So he did get them when he clicked on the classical age. So after clicked on classical age, that's a go-ahead sign to get that those upgrades and be safe while getting them upgrades. So what we're going to see now is we're going to see him build 2 stables, and he's going to build a Hippolyta as well when he can afford it. He didn't actually get that second, oh he did, he got 3 favor, he got 1 more favor than he needed to. I believe he sent that favor villager over onto gold. So that's always something you can think about doing. He's going to build that second stable up as well and then go from there. He's going to use these units which pop out to get aggressive very early on and push off any of this forward hunt which our set player is choosing to gather. He's also going to throw down an archer range as well to counter any of that spearmen which pop out. Now what we have to note here, there is generally a line of villager distribution we have, and there's like points in the game where you can say, okay, I've got this many villagers on this resource at this point, I want to aim for that at this point. And then you go to the next point and you say, I've got this many villagers here, this many villagers here, this many villagers here, and then we have to aim for that point. So where is he sending these villagers? He has them queued up to wood. So what we can note from this, and this is standard in every single Greek style when you're using Toxotos. As soon as you hit classical age, you start stringing villagers to wood until you feel enough. In this game, he's only going to have 1 archery range, so the amount of villagers that he needs to have is going to be, the amount of villagers on wood he needs to have is going to be 7. If he had 2 archery ranges, it's going to be more like 10 or 9. However, he's only going for the 1 archery range, he only needs 7. What he's going to do, and he's obviously doing this because he's not going to have the gold to support all of his cavalry. So what he's going to do after he gets these 7 villages, he's going to start sending villagers to gold. As you can see, he is starting to do so. And what he's going to do is he's going to send 7 villagers to gold. So what we can see from that is if I speed up just a little bit, we're just not going to ignore the military completely because we note that he is constantly building Hippicon, and Toxotos right here. We note that that is what is going on. And that's all we have to know because we're just following the economy, we're just trying to figure out this style. We don't actually care what he's doing with the military because this is what is happening in the game and what we are trying to learn. So he's now sent this villager over here. He's got 6 villagers on the goal. He's going to have 1 more villager sent to the goal. And now what's he going to do with these villagers? We've noted, okay, 777. That's a nice aim to be at. This villager is also the 8th villager, which probably can go anywhere, maybe also onto gold. So what is he going to do now? We have to think and understand why he's doing it. He's still sending villagers to gold. Why is he doing this? It's because he can't quite afford to produce all of these super coins at once. He's also a little bit house blocked, but that's okay. We can forgive him for that. We also have to remember, we don't want to get house blocked ourselves. Just because he's doing it doesn't mean that we have to do it, right? We can prevent this by building our house. We've had the resources to do so. We probably should have done it. However, that's not what's happening. So what's going to happen now is he's constantly building villages to gold. So our template was 777, and then we're going to continue on from there. We're going to start saying, okay, now what we're going to do is we're going to start sending villagers onto the gold mine and seeing what happens there. So again, more villagers. We now have the 10 villagers on the gold. However, he's choosing, no, only 9 villagers on gold. There we go. That's the point you can note down. We get to 9 villagers on gold, and now we're going to start sending more onto food. We're using our herdables to do so, and then we're going to see what can happen further on from there. He's using these villagers for food for a reason, right? He wants more food for a reason. Why is that reason? Well, honestly, it's because he wants to get that second town center up, and he wants to start gearing up to go to the heroic age and really take control of the game with Curse. So what's going to happen is we're going to note what time he decides to build that town center and when he could afford to build that town center, right? Those are the 2 important things to note. And what time he actually, there's an interesting moment in the game when he actually stops building and AQing army. So we have to note that time as well. So at the moment, he's constantly building villages to feed. That's okay. That's what we want to note. So he's still, after he had all those villages, he started building onto food. Okay, so the time is 8 minutes still. He's still building units, still building houses. He's currently gathering more favour, and this is simply because he wants to rebuild this supporter because it died. Okay, so we have to note our hero died. We have to get him back out because he's a meat unit and he will do a lot of damage to the opposing player because he takes so much hits, right? So that means that he's a bit of a mid shield. Also, filling up the Theseus as well, that's important to get both of your heroes out because they take so much damage and they just tank, right? Okay. So now what we're going to see, continuing along, we're still streaming villagers onto the food, right? Okay. I want you to take important note of what happens right now. Important note. The time was 9 minutes, but what we really have to note is more so the supply. He stopped building units at 95 supply. What happens if we lost our units in the early game and we didn't have that sort of supply? And it's 9 minutes. Oh, Magyar built that town center at 9 minutes. We have to do no. You have to get to that 95 supply worth of population so you can be safe from any aggression of your opponent. So he's sending these villagers over here to build this town center. All we have to note is he does have the resources to do so, and he does move them over. What we could have done is 9 minutes and 30 seconds is when he could afford it. What we could have done is we could have built it a little bit earlier had we sent villagers over here. Righto. So what we can see, 10 villagers on food, 8 villagers on wood, 11 villagers on gold. He hasn't really changed any of the villagers on this. He's only been using villagers from food to be building the town center. And obviously, when we're doing this, we have to understand why he's doing it. Why is he using villagers for food instead of wood or gold? It's simply because he has so much excess food because he's only building units from here and here as food and here. So he has the excess food to do so, so that's what's going on there. Okay. Now, I'm going to look at the military side because we have to say, okay, there's an engagement here, right? There's a fight which is going to be happening. So we did stop production of our units for a reason, but what we're going to note here is Magyar will restart making units from here because he's losing units. He's comfortable with this amount of supply worth of units, and thus he's going to continue doing so. When he loses units, he's going to start pumping some more out. Now, this fight here is quite one-sided, so we can't really learn much more from this game because this fight was so one-sided. However, we can note that because he does go down in supply, he will start building more units, probably. Yeah, there we go, he starts building units again. Because he starts going down in supply, he doesn't want to drop down in supply any further. He has this town center up. He is building an armory, so he wants to go to that heroic age, but he also wants to keep on supply and seeing what happens there. So that's basically the Magyar style for the early game in Poseidon vs. Set. Now we have to sort of think, why is Magyar doing this sort of stuff? Okay, why does Magyar win so easily here? He wins so easily because he used his micro. It wasn't exactly macro which won him the game. It obviously helped because he's so far ahead economically, but it's not why he won the game. It's because of micro. So what happens if we're playing this game and we don't win the game at 10 minutes 30 because we don't have the micro of Magyar, right? We have to say, okay, we have to think. We have to use our brain and say, what does it look like Magyar was gearing up to do? What happens if this fight was incredibly equal? If it was equal, right? We had this armory going up. We had so many villages on gold, so many villages on food. These villages were going on to food, so we actually had roughly about 16, 17 villages on food. So, like, this armory goes up. So this armory is basically it. Is he going to go for heavy upgrades? Well, it doesn't really make sense for him to go for heavy upgrades because he can't really push into any spot and abuse those upgrades and take out that sort of thing. So he's obviously going to be trying to go to the heroic age. He wants to stay above the 100 supply because that's what he was at when he stopped building units, and that's why we can understand that he wants to be above that 100 supply or 95 supply, whatever it was. He's going to continue being above that 100 supply with all of these units so he can be comfortable fighting his opposing army. He's then going to go to the heroic age, and he's going to get more town centers, boom a lot more, and then try and take that situation like he can. What we're going to do is we're going to go into the next game now. It's going to be a Poseidon versus Oranos match. This is an interesting matchup because Oranos can be so aggressive in the early game, but the Poseidon player, if he plays standard, he sort of gets in a bit of a muddle, right? So we're going to jump into this game and see what we can learn from Magyar strategy-wise, right? Economy-wise and strategy-wise. Not necessarily looking in the military micro, because what we want to learn is how to play his style before we can start microing and trying to win like he is. I'm going to let you in on a secret. I don't actually think Magyar wins this game, but that's not because of a poor strategy choice. It's because of poor decision-making later in the game when he is in fact in head. So we see as a standard 4 villages to the wood, food straight away, grabbing that hunting dog as soon as possible. Then we sending some more villagers over onto the wood. And what we're going to note straight away is that he only sends to the wood. This is incredibly important. Why? Because it means he's going for a much faster advance and seeing what he can manage to do with that sort of strategy. Right? He wants to survive the opposing Oranos player. An Oranos player has 2 options against a Greek, normally in this style with this much of HUD. You can either go for a 4-minute advance or a 4-minute 30 advance and get extremely aggressive early on and keep the Poseidon player on the back foot. Now, Magyar knows this, right? He played this game for long enough. He knows this. He knows how to counter that sort of play. So what he's going to do is he's going to advance fast himself. He doesn't want to get on the back foot. He's not going to let the Oranos player do that just because he can advance fast playing standard. What he's going to do is he's going to play a little bit not standard, a little bit less economy, and going to go for them very aggressive Ares strategy. But what we want to learn is how to do this strategy and how to economically play in order to build our units, in order to attack, and in order to play well. So he builds this house right now because he can afford it. He could actually build it later in the game, but it doesn't really matter because he's not going to be supply blocked in any way, shape, or form. Okay, playing fast, he's going to be sending all villagers to wood, all villagers to food until he has the food to get it. He's going to build a temple, and again, going to explain, he's going to be building the temple with a food villager. Personally, I would rather see him build it with a gold villager, and why he's doing this, I can't exactly explain why he's doing this, it's just because that's what he chose to do. If he used the gold villager, he'd get more food so he can advance faster, basically what he wants to do. So you have to take it for what it is. He is getting the temple with the food villager. Possibly he could be getting it with the gold villager if he chose to, sending this villager the food as well. However, that's what happens in this game. Continuing along, when this temple finishes, we're going to note he's going to build a Theseus. If he builds a Theseus, he does build. Okay, so that's why. Okay, explaining why he did this. He wanted the gold, extra gold, to build this species so he could advance to the classical age, hitting it at about the 4 minute and 10 mark, right? Now, noting as a standard, what are you doing? He's not going to get any economic upgrades. Why? Because he needs the resources to build a lot of stuff. He's going to be sending his villagers onto wood as a standard, as Poseidon's 5 villagers on